I never believed in love until a millionaire fell for a poor cleaning lady, changing everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was raining hard. The kind of downpour that turned streets into rivers, and the air thick with electricity. I huddled under the awning, my hands shaking as I clutched my mops and buckets like they could shield me from the world. There I was, just a cleaning lady in a big, unfeeling city, drowning in my own silence. He appeared like something out of a dream, or maybe a nightmare. A silver car glided to a stop, its engine a ferocious growl against the steady patter of rain. I could see him even through the sheets of water, a striking figure, tall and commanding. He stepped out, a dark coat flapping in the wind, his piercing blue eyes scanned the street like they held secrets of their own. I felt my chest tighten. Who was this man? Why did he look like he belonged in a world I could never enter? Just then, a flash of thunder roared above, and when I blinked, the moment turned surreal. There he was, standing closer now, right next to me. I caught his scent like fresh linen and something so undeniably rich. "Are you okay?" he asked, and his voice felt like a warm blanket in the cold. My heart raced, wild and unsteady. Yes," I managed to stutter, my cheeks burning. Why was he looking at me? As the rain poured down, I couldn't help but notice the discord of our lives reflected in that moment. He was untouchable, surrounded by luxury, and I was just a cog in the city's relentless machine. In the background, strangers whispered, their eyes flitting from him to me with curiosity and judgment. Could they see the gap that stretched between us? The silence hung thick, oppressive. I watched as he reached for me, his hand extending with that strange, heavy air of intent. The world around us blurred, sounds muted. Then it hit me, was he actually interested? Or was this some twisted joke? My mind raced, thoughts spilling out like the rain. I resisted the urge to glance at the people behind us. What did they see? Their snickers and gasps drew sharp lines on my fragile confidence that I could barely breathe. I wanted to pull away, to escape, but my feet remained glued to the damp pavement. Who could ever love a cleaning lady? But as his eyes locked with mine, I saw something there, a spark, a flicker of unexpected warmth. It sent shivers down my spine. Was this the kind of fire I had never dared to dream about? As he stepped closer, I felt the pulse of anticipation, mixed with fear and exhilaration. My heart pounded, a rapid rhythm fueling hope mingled with dread. Suddenly, he smiled, and my world tilted off its axis. But just as his lips parted to speak, a loud crash echoed in the air, breaking the moment, and the realization hit me hard. Someone was watching, and they didn't approve. Then, everything fell silent again, the onlookers stilling like statues. What did they know that we didn't? My heart raced, the air felt heavy. I clutched my cleaning supplies tighter, unsure of where this twisted fate was leading. What would happen next? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain slackened, allowing the din of the city to creep back into focus. I was jolted from that fleeting moment of connection, now raw with doubt and disbelief. The world suddenly felt too big and too small all at once. The eyes of the gathering crowd bore into me, injecting a rush of heat into my cheeks that surged throughout my whole body. What would they say? What would they think? Listen, the man began, his voice smooth yet laden with urgency. He fought against the weight of the world pressing down on us, and I could feel the tumultuous silence crackling around us like static, urging us to acknowledge the impossible space between who we were. What's your name? A name. My identity. I hesitated, caught in a whirlpool of confusion and fear. Mia, I finally whispered, my voice barely making it past the trepidation knotting my throat. Mia, he echoed, as if it were a song he had just learned. And just like that, while the crowd loomed, I felt his gaze wrapped around my heart, wrapping my trembling soul in a warmth I had never known. But with that glimmer of hope, a shadow crawled over me. Would I be enough? Before I could wholly pierce the depths of his sincerity, the thunder rolled again, and I shuddered, taking an involuntary step back. The moment snapped. I resolved to flee, burying my emotions, retreating behind the safeguard of my realistic cleaning lady scrubbing the glossy floors of luxury buildings, fading back into anonymity. Mia, he called again, stepping forward, but I turned, my feet regaining sensation as I scuttled away down the street. Mid-stride, I could feel his presence like a shadow following. I glanced back to see an expression of deep concern etched on his handsome features, his brow furrowed in frustration. As I hurried along, I tried to ignore the pounding of my heart, or the memory of his voice calling me. But another crash of thunder sent chills racing down my spine. I ducked into an usual route to escape the bustling streets whenever I needed a moment alone. It was dark and drenched, littered with remnants of the day, just like my heart, now laden with uncertainty that I pressed my eyes shut, letting the stillness wrap around me, attempting to regain my composure. But the lingering doubt slithered in, whispering ugly truths into my ear. Who do you think you are? A girl like you? As if on cue, a shuffling sound broke through the dimness, pulling me from my thoughts. I turned sharply to see a young boy perhaps 8 years old, his clothes tattered, damp but clean, a smudge of dirt on his cheek. Miss? He whispered, visibly shivering. Are you all right? The earnestness in his voice tugged at my heart, and for a moment, the exhaustion of my reality faded away. I'm okay, I reassured him, forcing a smile. What about you? Are you safe? He nodded but looked over his shoulder nervously, glancing around as if ensuring the city wouldn't swallow him whole. Been out here a while, he said. Sometimes I just need to hide. His vulnerability hit me, a reminder of how fragile we all truly are, children of despair in a world that only seemed to reward the glimmering surface. Would you like a warm drink? I offered, my heart reaching for a connection with this young soul. He hesitated, eyes wide with surprise. I have a bit saved up, I added, not entirely sure where the courage was coming from. Really? He asked, hope flickering in his eyes. Yeah. I pulled out a few coins, remnants of the tips I had been saving for something special but could happily sacrifice to share a small moment of warmth. Within moments, we found a quaint coffee shop, its warmth inviting as we stepped inside. The aroma filled the air, the smooth sound of jazz wrapping around us like a soft blanket. I bought him hot chocolate, a guilty pleasure that warmed both of us as we ducked into a corner booth. The boy's laughter bubbled forth like a spring of sincerity. I couldn't stay sad in front of his glimmering smile. We exchanged stories, and for a brief interlude, the worries of my daily life receded, replaced by hope woven through the kindness of sharing. But then, almost as if the universe wanted to remind me of my reality, my phone buzzed on the table. A message from an unknown number waiting impatiently. My heart sank at the sight of it, panic rising just as quickly as warmth had settled. Mia, I need to talk. It's urgent. The text was cold, filled with dread and a warning that swelled fear within me. I felt two worlds colliding, the comfort of warmth and connection shattering against the jagged edges of my reality that I had tried so hard to escape. Mia? The boy asked, his small voice cutting through my spiraling thoughts. Sorry, I stammered, looking at him, yet my heart was back where I had run from, entangled in a web of conflicted emotions. Outside, the rain resumed its relentless pounding, but I felt the echoes of my heartbeat collide with the memory of the unknown man, the urgency looming in the text. Was he the reason I was spiraling? Or the beginning of a new path meant to lead me away from the shadows? I felt lost, caught between fleeting moments of kindness and a sudden, jarring reality that had just crashed back into my life. I faced the boy, forcing a smile even as turmoil brewed deep within me. Everything's going to be okay, I whispered, yet I wasn't convinced. In that moment, as I wrestled with hope and despair, the universe pulsed with the silent promise of upheaval. The cozy warmth of the coffee shop wrapped around me, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my heart. I noticed the boy sipping his hot chocolate, a small smile forming as the marshmallows floated lazily to the surface. I longed to believe I could give him a moment of sweetness in a world that often felt so bitter. "Do you come here a lot?" I asked him, desperate to redirect my thoughts, to forget, if only for an instant, the message that weighed heavy in my pocket. "Sometimes," he replied, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "But only if I have coins. Most times, I just roam the streets, you know." He leaned in closer, curiosity gleaming in his gaze. "What's a fancy lady like you doing in a place like this? Aren't you supposed to be in some big house somewhere?" I laughed softly, the sound bittersweet. "Well, not all fancy ladies live in big houses. Sometimes, we have to scrub the rest away." "Scrub?" He tilted his head, confusion lining his young features. "You're not a scrubber. You're pretty." His compliment warmed my heart, although I couldn't shake the cold shadow of embarrassment at my current reality. "Thank you, but you know, I scrub floors so that some fancy people can enjoy their big houses." That he nodded solemnly, as if he understood a truth too heavy for his small shoulders. "I guess everyone has their own kinds of scrubbing to do." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again, and I flinched, my heart racing. The boy's eyes widened, and I saw the surprise turn to concern as I stared at the screen, the sharpness of the message cutting through the tender moment we created. "Mia, I can help you. I'll be at the docks. Come." The word sent a shiver down my spine. A familiar dread clutched at my heart. The man from the rain hadn't given up, hadn't disappeared altogether like I had hoped. "Miss?" The boy's voice broke into my spiraling thoughts. "Are you all right? You look sad again." "That I'm fine," I managed to whisper, forcing a smile. But with each second, my resolve to keep this moment light waned. I wanted desperately to tell him everything would be okay, but I felt like a fraud. The boy reached across the table, his tiny hand wrapping around mine as if to assure me that I wasn't alone in this vast, overwhelming world. "You know, I used to think the rain was bad," he began, his voice a soft murmur. "But then I realized it washes everything away. It makes things new. Maybe you just need some rain for your heart." A bitter laugh escaped my lips, unbidden and disjointed. "You may be right, kid. But there's a storm raging in my life right now, and I don't know how to let it cleanse me." Before he could answer, I excused myself to the restroom, needing a moment away from the kind light of his innocence. The cold tile floor sent a jolt through me, grounding me as I splashed water on my face, trying to rid myself of the fear pooling within. In that moment of solitude, I couldn't help but think of the man from the rain, his soulful gaze, his urgency filling the spaces I thought I had sealed off forever. Who was he to me? Why did the idea of him being close feel as terrifying as it did comforting? I took a deep breath, reminding myself of the boy's words. Maybe this wasn't a time to run away. Maybe it was time to face the storm head-on. That I returned to the booth, finding the boy staring at me with a seriousness that belied his age. "You okay?" he asked, genuine concern evident on his face. "That I think I am," I said, feeling a newfound gentleness in my heart. "I think I'm ready to do something." The boy's eyes lit up, but as the smile began to form on his lips, my phone buzzed again, twice this time, demanding my attention. I hesitated, my heart heavy with dread. "Mia," the first message read. "You need to meet me. I can't wait anymore." And the second, "It's about your family." A cold wave of realization began crashing down upon me. There lay the crux of my turmoil, the one thing I had been running from, the reason I had buried my heart beneath layers of obligation and fear. I looked at the boy, his expression frozen in a mix of hope and worry. What would I choose? Would I abandon this spark of connection, or do I seek out the truth that hung like a storm cloud over my life? "Hey," I said, taking a deep breath, "I think I might need to go, but I promise, you'll be back. We'll play more games, okay?" His face fell, disappointment washing over him, but he nodded. "Okay. Just promise me you'll come back soon. As I stood to leave, another text chimed in, and I couldn't help but glance at it. I won't let you go through this alone, Mia. Meet me as soon as you can, and with that, a flood of conflicting emotions threatened to engulf me. As I stepped back into the rain, I felt the chill seep through my bones, reminiscent of the choices before me. Would I dive into the depths of a storm that could drown my heart, or could it wash me clean and free, leading me to something I might never have dared to believe was possible? The raindrops fell around me, each one a reminder of the truth I was grappling with, twisting in directions I never anticipated. A choice layered with uncertainty loomed ahead, tangled in the strands of fate, and with every heartbeat, I felt the pulse of a new reality whispering to me, inviting me back into a world where love could be found in the unlikeliest of places. The rain was alive, each drop a defiant challenge that raced towards the ground, just as my heart raced with conflicting desires. I found my feet moving, yet my mind remained tethered to the boy and the warmth of our fleeting connection. His voice echoed in my ears, a gentle reminder of innocence in a world often cracked and stark. The dim light of the cafe faded behind me, replaced by the gray overcast that hung heavily in the sky, much like the weight of the choices looming ahead. I could feel my phone vibrating against my thigh, each buzz a new tether to a reality I wasn't sure I wanted to re-enter. Passing through the crowd, I felt invisible, like a ghost brushing past living souls. For a moment, I took a deep breath, letting the rain wash against my face. It was refreshing, if not a touch painful, a reminder of what I was up against. I had to meet him. I had to find the truth about my family, even if it shattered the fragile hope I had growing in my chest. With each step toward the docks, a place that drudged up old memories tainted by unresolved pain, I felt the ground shift beneath me. Would I find the answers I sought, or would I unravel even further? The city around me pulsed with life, yet I felt more isolated than ever, drowning in the waves of my own indecision. Finally, I reached the docks, the salty air mixing with the rain to create a strange cocktail of nostalgia and dread. The wooden planks creaked beneath my weight, the sound echoing like a heartbeat in the quiet that seemed to envelop the area. A shadow appeared in the dim light, a figure I recognized all too well. "You came," he said, his voice cutting through the chilled silence like a sharp knife. The man from the rain stood before me once more, eyes darkened with an urgency that sent a shiver down my spine. I didn't know if I would, I admitted, conflict swirling within me like the storm clouds overhead. "What do you want from me?" He moved closer, his expression softening but resolute. "I want to help you. No one deserves to bear this alone." The sincerity in his voice pulled at the strands of a fear I had kept tightly woven, and for a moment, I hesitated. "My family," I began, the words tumbling forth. "There's so much I don't know. There's so much I've lost. And am terrified of what I might find." He watched me intently, as if weighing my words against a truth he knew but hadn't shared yet. "You have a right to know, Mia. You can't let the past consume you." With bated breath, I gestured toward the darkened water. "And what if the truth is worse than the fear? What if it swallows me whole? Then I'll be right there with you," he promised. The quiet strength in his voice soothed my trembling heart a fraction, making me question my entitlement to such kindness. Who was this man, and why did he care so profoundly? Before I could respond, we were interrupted by a sharp, disparate shout from across the dock. A group of people huddled together, voices raised in confusion and alarm. My curiosity piqued despite the somber gravity of the moment. As we approached, I caught fragments of their frantic conversation. "He's gone," someone shouted. "He just vanished." Panic rippled through the crowd, tightening my chest. I could feel the tension, the urgent fear that seeped into the very bones of the gathering. Whatever had happened, it loosened the grip of my individual fears just long enough to pull me into the collective anxiety of the unknown. "Who?" I whispered, instinctively close to the man, seeking solace in his presence. "The boy from the streets. He disappeared." My heart dropped. The boy. The one who had brightened my heavy heart at the cafe. I turned, glancing back toward the direction I came. My mind raced. How could this be happening? Tension danced in the air as people began to disperse, some racing toward the possible hiding spots while others took out their phones, trying to summon help. I stood rooted to the spot, my pulse pounding in rhythm with the realization that even in my own chaos, this sweet, innocent boy needed me. Without thinking, I pulled away from the man beside me. I have to go. He might be in trouble. My decisions once again unspooled as my heart pulled toward the boy who had seen through the layers of my scars to touch something beautiful in me. Wait, he called after me, but I didn't turn back. My feet moved instinctively, desperation fueling my urgency. As I sprinted toward the cafe, the rain mingled with the unshed tears prickling in my eyes. In the mire of my own conflict, I had momentarily forgotten the innocents who counted on me for strength. Please, be safe, I whispered to the storm, hoping against hope that fate would be kinder this time. But as the weight of my choices pressed down, I couldn't shake the feeling that unfolding layers of joy and sorrow awaited me at every turn. With every step, I felt the churning waters close in around me, a fight against my own fears and the ever-looming shadows of my past. As I reached the cafe, the scene before me shifted yet again like the portent of thunder rolling across the horizon. A massive wave of realization crashed into my heart. What if saving one life led to losing another? What if in my quest to mend the pieces of my shattered world, I lost the last connection I had to hope? Just as I reached the entrance, my phone buzzed one last time. Mia, it's about the boy. Time is running out. And with that chilling message, the choice between love and truth spiraled deeper than I had ever anticipated. The storm was much bigger than I imagined, making room for pain and possibility to intertwine like the chaos I'd been running from all along. The cafe loomed ahead, its warm lights flickering like distant stars in an encroaching void. Every surge of adrenaline propelled me toward the entrance, yet with each step, a gnawing anxiety coiled tighter around my heart. The boy's face flickered before me, a savior for my lost soul, now made vulnerable by the horror of disappearing into thin air. Inside, the air was thick with an unsettling tension, patrons murmuring, their faces etched with confusion. I scanned the crowd, desperation bursting forth in my chest. Where is he? I barely breathed, my voice shaky, strained. The barista, her hands trembling as she wiped down the counter, caught my eye. He was just here, she stuttered. Drinking hot chocolate. He didn't have his things. We thought he was just playing. But then he ran and vanished. An icy grip seized my heart. How could he just disappear? My mind reeled with frantic images, imagining the boy lost and afraid. As I swallowed hard, panic bubbled within me, nearly bursting free. Did you see which way he went? With a shake of her head, the barista looked apologetic, eyes shimmering with helplessness. No, Mia, I didn't. I'm sorry. The guilt in her voice wrapped around me like a suffocating blanket. What if something happened to him? I whispered, feeling the weight of my own helplessness. The irony of my own despair clashed with the urgency I felt for the boy. How had his life intersected with mine so deeply in such a short span of time? Just then, the door swung open, and a gust of heavy rain rushed in. As I turned, an unexpected figure stumbled in wet and breathless. My heart skipped for a moment, but it wasn't the boy I sought. It was the man from the docks, his presence a jarring contrast to my swirling emotions. Mia. He called, eyes scanning the room until they landed on me. I heard about the boy. He's not lost, he ran away from someone. We think he's in danger. It can't be. I gasped, instinctively stepping closer to him. The urgency in his tone struck a chord in a deep part of me that was already unraveling. How do you know? I saw him last night. He was with someone I recognized. His voice dropped, each word edged with gravity. I don't have much time to explain, but I think he's being threatened. We need to find him. Now, the world tilted on its axis, ripping apart the fragile sense of safety I clung to. My desperation morphed into an overbearing urgency, and with a shaky breath, I nodded. Where do we start? Follow me, he said, and just like that, we were propelled into the storm once more, our minds racing faster than the chaos surrounding us. Outside, the rain pounded mercilessly against the pavement as we darted through the streets, the sounds of the city fading against the backdrop of my thoughts crashing like waves against the shore. "You need to tell me everything. Who was he with?" I demanded, determined to piece together fragments of this mystery that I didn't see much of their faces. "Just shadows moving in the alley behind the cafe. But there's one name I overheard, Rafe. He's bad news, Mia. There's a rumor he has ties to some dangerous people, Rafe." The name struck me like a bolt of lightning, inexplicably familiar yet also foreign. Why was the boy with him? I pushed, dread coiling like a serpent in my chest. The man inhaled sharply, slowing his pace just enough to catch my eye. "I think he was trying to help him, but Rafe is known for taking advantage of kids like him. For profit. We need to stop this now." With his words, a paralyzing sense of guilt washed over me. I felt a kinship with the boy, a shared understanding of loss and a desperate need for love. How could I have let him wander into danger? "We must hurry," I urged, my own urgency igniting again like a flame, but before we could move farther, a scream pierced the air, a raw and primal sound unlike anything I had ever heard. It echoed down the drenched alley, an unholy alarm that sent chills racing down my spine. Was that? I faltered, fear twisting within me. My heart pounded louder than the thunder, resonating against my ribcage as we sped toward the sound. We turned the corner just in time to see a figure darting away, a small silhouette, soaked and terrified. My heart split open, urging me to follow the child who was more than just a boy. He was a flicker of hope in my life, the last thread connecting me to a future I feared was slipping away. Then, as we reached the alley's mouth, a pair of menacing figures stepped out, blocking our path. They positioned themselves with a confidence that sent tremors of despair through me. "Stay back!" one of them shouted, eyes narrowing as he sized us up with a sneer. The man beside me tensed, shifting closer, protective instinct igniting in his posture. "We're looking for the boy," he called out, bravely stepping forward despite the danger. Terror crashed over me as I stepped back instinctively, my breath hitching in my throat. "He's just a kid," I shouted, but the men merely laughed, their malevolence seeping through the cracks of the wet ground. The figures exchanged glances before one of them spoke, voice smooth but laced with a chill. "Kids are just a means to an end, sweetheart. And this one? He belongs to Rafe now." That name echoed like a death knell through my mind, a harbinger of all the fears and struggles I had yet to confront. As dread pooled in my stomach, the clock ticked mercilessly, every second felt like an eternity. "Run!" The man barked at me, yet my feet were rooted in fear, my heart screaming for the boy in the shadows. A final chance, my last opportunity. I couldn't let this moment slip away. With a leap of faith, I surged forward, heart racing, the tension of that moment crystallizing a singular truth in my soul. No longer could I stand by the shadows of despair, it was time to fight for the light I dared to believe in, and just as I moved, the sudden darkness threatened to swallow us whole. The men advanced, their faces twisted, ready to crush any semblance of hope. In the chaos, I didn't just fight for the boy or the storms raging outside, I fought for every scar etched across my heart, every love that flared against the gust of despair, and every future I feared I'd lose. And right then, in the frail digits of time, the boy's fate hung precariously, weighted against the fierce storm within me. A tempest of love and courage intertwined, leaving everything to chance who would survive, and who would fall into darkness. How much would it cost to uncover the truth? As I faced the shadows, I realized what was most terrifying was not knowing how it would end. And yet, with every pulse in my veins, I knew I could not turn back now. The sudden clash of fists echoed through the narrow alley, mingling painfully with the patter of relentless rain. Shadows twisted and turned on the damp walls, and in that chaotic moment, time seemed to slow as I beheld the unfolding struggle before me. My heart raced, fueled by a mixture of fear and a desperate, unyielding determination. "Get away from him!" I shouted, voice cracking but resolute. The figures, looming like dark clouds above the boy's fragile frame, momentarily paused as my presence registered. They scoffed at my audacity, but with each second that ticked away, I felt the shudder of courage unfurling deep inside me. "Mia, back." The man beside me urged, but it was already too late. My feet were already in motion, propelled by a need that surged through my veins like electricity. I couldn't erase the black vestiges of helplessness that had haunted me for far too long. Incredibly, the boy, frightened but instinctively aware, recognized me through the tumult. His eyes, wide and brimming with terror, met mine. In that moment, he wasn't just a lost child, he was the embodiment of every hope I dared to cling to, every dream abruptly upended in the tempest of uncertainty. I extended a hand, beckoning him forward. "It's okay. You can trust me," I cried, hoping to drive away the storm hovering over his heart. And in that desperate plea, I saw the flicker of courage ignite within his gaze. Just as he took a faltering step toward me, the men's laughter sliced through the air, a sound so perverse that it sent chills racing down my spine. One of the men, his eyes cold and calculating, stepped forward. "You think you can save him? You have no idea what you're up against." His voice dripped with venom, reminding me that I stood on a rickety bridge over a chasm of despair. With a deep breath and a resolute glance at the boy, I felt an overwhelming wave of something new and fierce love, fiercer than any fear I had experienced. "I will protect him," I declared, the words unfolding with unexpected confidence. And they echoed back in my own mind a promise I would do anything to keep. "Just let him go." The words burst forth, nearly lost amid the downpour, yet the intensity of my conviction cut through the tension wrapping around us. Their indifference hardened, and I sensed the precarious nature of our moment. One of the men lunged forward, arms outstretched like a predator poised to pounce. Without thinking, I moved, surging closer, creating a sliver of space between him and the boy. "No!" I screamed. Suddenly, the world erupted. The man's fist swung wide, yet my movements carried urgency. I ducked instinctively, adrenaline propelling me in wild, unpredictable directions. "Run!" I shouted again, forcing the boy into motion. I felt his small hand slip into mine for a fleeting moment, grounding me in a reality where there was still hope. Together, we stumbled backward, and the barista's face flicked into my mind, her trembling apology still ringing in my ears. In that fleeting instant, I ignited on a flash of memory. What had she said? It struck me that the café, though a distance away, stood as a sanctuary I could draw strength from. We bolted. The rain drenched us, but it felt almost cleansing, a reminder that if I could move, if I could still fight back, I had to try. The echoes of chaos followed behind, and every instinct urged me to protect not just myself, but this child who had become intertwined with my very soul. That we ducked into a side street, narrowly escaping the grasp of those looming shadows. Through ragged breath, the boy stumbled alongside me, his small frame shivering, both from the rain and fear. "Mia," he gasped, "are they going to get us?" "No," I promised, eyes scanning the road ahead. "Not if we keep moving." I glanced down at him, a tender connection forged in chaos. "What's your name, Lucas?" he replied quietly, his voice barely above a whisper as he clutched my hand tighter. "Lucas," I repeated, testing the name on my tongue. It burned with unfamiliarity, yet within its softness lay the weight of fate. "I'm going to keep you safe, I promise." As we reached a block littered with abandoned cars, the city loomed, a labyrinth in which I had once felt suffocated, but now it appeared as a canvas of possibilities, one where I could paint our escape. Suddenly, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, pulling my attention momentarily away from the task of saving Lucas. I fished it out to see a text from an unknown number: "If you value your lives, stay away. Rafe has eyes everywhere." The blood drained from my face. Lucas looked at me, fear evident in his expression. "Who is Rafe?" he asked. "What does it matter?" I forced myself to say, urgency creeping into my tone. "We need to," but then, as if summoned by the whispers of that name, a chilling realization settled over me. If Rafe had eyes everywhere, it meant I was in deeper than I anticipated. It meant every step we took now could be our last. Within that freezing moment of clarity, the coldness of the air cut through the rain, and something primitive awakened inside me, a visceral reaction to the impending darkness. As I counted down in my head, an agonizing thought consumed me: how far would I have to go to save Lucas? How many more innocent lives would be caught in the crossfire of Rafe's grotesque game of power? Just as we crouched behind a rusted vehicle, I spotted a figure emerging from the shadows, eerily familiar, yet cloaked in the uncertainty of the moment. "Rafe," I whispered, a tremor of recognition skating down my spine, and then I heard his voice, a mix of bravado and malevolence, echoing with confidence that sent shivers racing through the damp night. "You think you can keep running forever?" And I realized, in that crushing embrace of despair, that the revelation hadn't just pierced my heart but also intertwined our fates in a way I had never imagined possible. The truth hung over me like a storm cloud ready to break, propelling me forward into the unknown. What remained hidden in the shadows could very well decide if we survived this night, or if everything I fought for would dissolve into nothingness. The rain continued to pour, an unrelenting reminder of the turmoil that surrounded us. I pressed back against the rusted vehicle, my heart hammering in my chest like a frantic drummer. Rafe's voice curled around the edges of my consciousness, suffocating me with its ominous weight. I jolted, eyes darting through the chaos, desperately seeking clarity in the menacing shadows. "Lucas, stay behind me," I whispered, crouching lower, willing the chill on my skin to transform into a shield. I could almost feel the child's body shaking as he resisted the urge to peek over the edge of the car, his trust clinging to me like a lifeline. "Why are they after us?" he whispered, fear infused with innocence dancing in the words, amplifying the urgency of our situation, because the word barely escaped my lips. "Because I'm trying to save you." Then, in that moment, I understood that saving Lucas meant navigating a maze far more treacherous than the physical streets of the city. Rafe took a deliberate step closer, his figure sharp against the backdrop of rain. "You think you can shield him from the truth?" he taunted, voice dripping with disdain. "You're merely prolonging the inevitable." I closed my eyes for a brief second, and a flood of memories cascaded through me. Every sacrifice I had made, every silent scream of my heart echoing in a worldly existence that had dulled constancy into a sweet dream. In that whirlpool of recollection, I remembered the barista from the café, the first person I had met who had extended kindness without expectation. A flicker of warmth ignited within me at the thought of her. It was that kindness that fueled my determination to keep Lucas safe. "No," I heard myself say, my voice steadying. "You know nothing about what it takes to protect someone you love." Rafe laughed, a sound devoid of joy, more like the chilling caw of a crow waiting for the morning light. "Love is a folly, my dear. It leads to destruction." I clenched my fist, the words a silver thread weaving a connection between Lucas and me, binding us in the promise of protection and hope, a stark contrast to Rafe's twisted philosophies. "Love is the only thing that matters," I countered, the conviction thrumming in my veins. Each beat of my heart grew louder, reinforcing my determination, and I wondered if I could channel that love into a weapon powerful enough to vanquish the darkness that loomed. The laughter of Rafe faded for a moment, replaced instead by the distant, echoing sounds of approaching sirens. I glanced sideways at Lucas, whose wide eyes mirrored the fear I felt, but there was something else simmering beneath the surface, a flicker of resilience. In him, I saw not just a frightened child, but the embodiment of courage itself, a spirit that could defy even the fiercest storms. "That we need to move," I said, grabbing his hand. "Now." We crawled low and quick through the maze of abandoned vehicles, my mind racing with possibilities. Escape. Safety. How much longer could I trust my instincts? With every step, every heartbeat drumming with urgency, I could feel Rafe's presence trailing behind us like an ominous shadow. It felt akin to a hunter stalking its prey, and never had I felt so acutely aware of the fragility of our existence. As we rounded an abandoned building, I noticed a flickering sign, a diner, its neon light barely grasping onto the last remnants of its vibrancy. My gut turned instinctively. Would it be a safe haven or another trap? Through the downpour, I spotted a figure standing beneath the awning, watching our approach. A wave of anxiety coursed through me. "Lucas, hold on tight," I murmured, unaware of whether it was for comfort or to brace myself for the impending encounter, but the moment we reached the shelter of the awning, the figure stepped forward, and my heart stumbled. An unexpected familiarity flooded me as I recognized the embrace of the barista. Her eyes were wide with concern, her expression a mixture of fear and fierce determination. "Mia!" she gasped, reaching out as though my presence was as surreal as a dream. How did you find us?" I gasped, taken aback not just by her presence but by the warmth of her voice cutting through the cold fear enveloping our surroundings. "That I saw what happened in the cafe," she admitted, breathless, glancing at Lucas in acknowledgement. "You shouldn't be out here." "This city I know," I interrupted, desperate, taking a step closer. "We need to. Rafe has people everywhere," she warned, eyes darting to the street. I was able to overhear some conversations while cleaning. "We can't stay out here. He's already got eyes in the diner." The words hung between us like a noose tightening around the hope I so desperately clung to. For all her kindness, how could I trust she hadn't led us into yet another snare? Yet, looking into her eyes, I saw sincerity mingled with shared concern for our safety. "What do we do?" Lucas murmured, skin paling in the evanescent glow of the neon light. "Let's go inside," I decided, swallowing my fear, realizing our hopes rested not just on me, but on the strength of the unexpected alliances we could forge. "Well, figure it out in there." As we turned toward the diner, the distant sound of a siren grew louder, signaling our moving clock. With one last glance over my shoulder, I felt the weight of Rafe's looming presence spiraling closer, a dark harbinger to what would come. Feet heavy with uncertainty, I steeled myself and walked forward, the air inside the diner stale yet familiar, a sanctuary obscured by lurking threats. But just as the door swung shut behind us, sealing in a fragile bubble of sanctuary, my heart plummeted. I turned to find a familiar face behind the counter, eyes wide with shock. It was Marissa, my estranged sister. The unrecognized tempest brewing between us lay thick in the air, overshadowing everything as she gasped my name, ripping the fragile strands of safety from my grasp. "Mia," she breathed, confusion mingled with something darker festering just under the surface. And then, the question hung like an unspoken elephant in the room: why was she here? What was the truth behind our reunion, and how far entangled were our paths in the gargantuan web of the dark world we tried to escape? The heaviness of Marissa's gaze anchored me in place, suspending time in an excruciating balance of past grievances and present terror. The diner, with its flickering neon and the faint scent of frying oil, felt as foreign as the shadows lurking outside, threatening to swallow us whole. "Why are you here?" I managed to voice through a throat constricted by both panic and disbelief. I had searched high and low for her after she had left, and yet here I was, staring at my sister, a woman who had felt like a ghost long before I had come to know the true meaning of loss. "Mia," she started, hesitating, her brow furrowing as if she were grasping for the right words in a language long forgotten. "Please, we don't have time for this." I felt rude and desperate, but urgency surged through me, a palpable feeling. The sirens wailed ever closer, and I could almost see Rafe's sneering smile materializing in my mind's eye, mocking our uncertainty. "It's not just that," she said, her voice barely rising above the hum of the diner. She took a deep breath, her shoulders sagging as if the weight of the world was crushing her. "I know about Rafe." Lucas, standing beside me, clutched my hand tighter, sensing the gravity of the situation. "Why does he matter?" he breathed, the innocence of a child contrasting sharply with the reality we had stumbled into. Marissa's eyes softened for a moment, and I could see the flicker of regret and protection there. "He's dangerous, Mia. He's been watching you, and he knows you're trying to escape." My mind raced. Had she been working with him all this time? The thought made my insides churn with mistrust. "How do you know this? Who have you been talking to?" "Please, just listen to me," she implored, her desperation breaking through the facade of her hardened exterior. "I had to take a job at the center to make ends meet. During the late shifts, I overheard things about you." Panic flashed through me, wondering if the whispers had included Lucas. "What do you mean? What did they say?" A pained expression twisted her features. "Nothing concrete. Just murmurs of someone in the city who had a target on their back, and associated with him." They spoke about how you became a problem. I didn't know it was about you until her words trailed off, and she finally focused on Lucas, who was visibly distressed, the terror of our situation starting to truly register on his young face. The diner, I whispered suddenly, realizing the irony. Do you think they could be watching us here? Marissa nodded, the soft features of her face clouding with worry. It's a risk. But I had to come. We need a plan, and somewhere safe. There was sincerity in her voice that momentarily dispelled some of my fear, sort of like a small light cut through the thick fog of uncertainty. As we huddled together in the dimly lit diner, a stranger to the world falling apart outside, I thought of how Marissa's presence could be both a salvation and a complication. I hadn't known if I could trust her. She was the sister from whom I had grown apart, her absence a wound I had carried, yet life had stitched us together in traumatic grace so that maybe, just maybe, we could confront this storm together. Suddenly, the door swung open with an ominous creak. My heart sank to my stomach, a surge of adrenaline firing through my veins as Rafe's menacing silhouette appeared in the doorway. The rain had followed him inside, mixing with the thick tension hanging in the air. Lucas gasped, and I felt the tight grip of his hand. Rafe scanned the diner like a predator assessing his environment, and the gaze that landed on Marissa turned my blood cold. How quaint, he said, a cruel smile creeping across his face like a dark stain. Family reunions can be so enlightening. Marissa stepped back, and instinct propelled me forward, positioning myself between her and Rafe, my heart racing with desperate resolve. What do you want? To see your little game play out, my dear. I quite enjoy watching people struggle against their fates. His voice was smooth, as if he were merely talking about the weather, infusing me with a cold dread. Get away from her. I shouted, though my voice trembled, my fierce stance an illusion against the weight of Rafe's threat. Behind me, Lucas shuddered, fear emanating off him like sparks. But do you see, Mia? He continued, stepping closer, relishing the provocation. You've brought this danger upon yourself. So attached to love, yet so foolish to think escaping anything was even a possibility, and in that instant, I felt something break deep within. A fissure of despair intertwined with a surge of fury that coursed through my body like lightning. I won't let you hurt us. Rafe's gaze flickered, momentarily revealing surprise before it morphed back into a predatory hunger. You'll come to regret those words. With that, the world around me distorted into chaos as shouts erupted from outside, the police sirens merged into sirens of chaos. But within the maelstrom, there was a whisper of hope. I had Marissa, and Lucas, albeit fragile alliances wrapped in fear woven tightly around trust. Yet just as hope began to blossom, it was threatened again with a single revelation. Rafe turned away, leaving a chilling message that rolled through the air like a storm cloud. You have no idea who has been protecting you from a fate far worse than me, and with those words echoing in the diner, leaving the question hanging, palpable and terrifying, I realized the cost of this perilous dance was more than I'd ever imagined. The truth emerged as a torrent, and I was left grappling in its wake, suspended between the fragments of my shattered past and a future that loomed heavy with uncertainty. The rain drummed a relentless rhythm against the diner's window as Rafe's words settled into the air, thick and suffocating. A fate far worse than me. They replayed in my mind like a broken record, each repetition drawing the tendrils of dread tighter around my heart. I glanced back at Marissa, whose eyes reflected the same turmoil I felt inside. We had stepped into a maze filled with darkness, and I feared there would be no light leading us out. What does he mean? Lucas whispered, his innocence piercing through the fog of my panic. The boy was confused, his young mind grappling with the adult chaos surrounding him. My heart ached for him. How many trials must he endure for mistakes that weren't his? I don't know, I stammered, searching for an answer that wasn't there. Rafe's departure had done nothing to alleviate the tension. Instead, it was like stepping onto a tightrope. My next move could swing us triumphantly to safety or send us plummeting into despair. Marissa, with resolve shining through her uncertainty, put a steadying hand on my shoulder. We need to go. We can't stay here. It's not safe. As we moved, I raked my mind for options, desperately plotting a path away from the clutches of Wraith. I had given up everything me job, my semblance of normalcy only to find myself back where I'd started. Only now, there was more at stake. I had to safeguard Lucas, and now Marissa, too. We pushed against the diner's door, the wind's howl carrying with it echoes of shattered dreams. Outside, the world was a whirl of darkness punctuated by emergency lights, illuminating our path but also the prey we had become. Huddled close, we darted down the narrow alley beside the diner, shadows enveloping us like a cocoon. With every step, the weight of uncertainty pressed into my chest, each beat of my heart sinking with the frantic pitter-patter of rain against pavement. Where do we go? I could feel Marissa's question looming between us, a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. We need to find someone who can help. I know a few people but I don't trust they won't lead us back to Wraith. The truth hung between us like a dagger, cradling potential danger and desperation. I might know someone, Marissa said hesitantly, her eyes darting. There's a friend from the center, Jessica. She knows things, people who may have a way out. Hope flickered in my chest, but I kept my voice steady, unwilling to douse her newfound courage. Where does she live? Just a few blocks away, she replied. There was urgency in her tone, propelling us forward. As we navigated the slick streets, the city seemed alive with chaos, shouts and sirens filling the air, drowning out the small whispers of hope. Each step felt heavier, the shadows heavy around us. I glanced down at Lucas, his small frame shivering beside me. He was too young to bear such burdens. His eyes, wide and afraid, broke my heart all over again. Suddenly, a figure slipped through the rain-soaked darkness, halting my breath. Mia! A voice called out. My heart raced, and I instinctively stepped in front of Lucas, ready to shield him from whatever danger lurked in the shadows. The figure emerged, a familiar face, one I never expected to see again. Clara, a friend I thought had drifted out of my life after the fallout from my past decisions. Her presence felt like both balm and fresh wound, a reminder of happier times now tainted with guilt. What are you doing here? I managed to choke out. I've been looking for you. I didn't know if you'd come back. After she hesitated, and I could see the emotion warring in her eyes, the history we shared manifesting in unspoken words. I heard about Wraith. I can help. What do you mean? I was skeptical, understanding how poison could masquerade as aid. Marissa stepped close, her leg brushing against mine, silently acknowledging the tension building. I have a place, Clara said. A safe house. If you come with me, I can keep you hidden until we figure something out. Why should I trust you? You left without a word. The disappointment cut sharper than I realized, but I needed to protect Lucas. That was my priority now. Clara looked stricken, guilt flashing over her features. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter, I interjected, my heart racing. Do you know where we can go? Yes, please. Her desperation clashed with my distrust, but time slipped away like sand through my fingers. Okay, I said decisively, forcing a leap of faith. Lead the way. As we turned to follow her, a slice of relief threaded through me, weaving the fraying strands of hope together. I could feel Marissa's anxiety bubbling beneath her calm demeanor, but the collective drive pushed us forward. We kept moving, deeper into the labyrinth of alleyways, Clara leading with confidence. My heart that this journey was a gamble, and every corner we turned felt like a ticking clock edging closer to catastrophe, and just as I believed we had escaped the dark tendrils of Wraith, chaos erupted. A clap of thunder sounded overhead, followed by the explosion of light illuminating our surroundings with vivid clarity. In that moment, shadows blurred into figures, headlights plunging toward us Wraith's men. My heart seemed to jump into my throat. I turned, my mind racing through desperation, wanting to shove Lucas behind me and protect him at all costs. Run! I shouted, the fire of urgency igniting my words. But in the confusion, another voice rang out, a voice I never expected to hear. Mia! Lucas! It's me. I can help. I froze, every nerve in my body reeling as I locked eyes with the approaching figure, dread mingling with disbelief. Nikki. The name hung in the air like a noose. Nikki, the one who had walked away from everything, now charging toward us with purpose burning in his eyes and rage lurking just beneath the surface. He was more than just a ghost from the past, he represented safety and heartbreak intertwined, and I didn't know which I feared more. As Rafe's men closed in, the world around us collapsing into frantic chaos, a new maze unfolded, a tangle of affections, regrets, and chilling choices waiting to be made. Just when I thought the night couldn't get darker, hope flickered unsteadily before me like a flickering candle, threatening to drown in the chaos surging against us. Nikki, with all the weight of our shared history bound up in his presence, stepped forward, determination etched into his features. "What are you doing here?" I gasped, the disbelief flooding my voice. Nikki had once been my partner in a time when our dreams were as vivid as the city lights. But that world, with its love, laughter, and bright promise, had long since crumbled to ash. "I came to find you," he said, urgency inflecting his words with a pulse of desperation. "I heard about everything, Mia. Heard you were in danger." The sincerity in his eyes cut through the haze of fear and doubt that clung around us. For a brief moment, the city faded into the cacophony of my heart as I locked onto the golden glimmer of his intent. Could this be true? Did someone still care enough to seek me out? To protect us, Rafe, I started, but before I could elaborate, the sound of footsteps closing in on us erupted like the crack of lightning. I felt a pang of betrayal as instinctively, my heart clenched tighter against the possibility of losing Nikki for the second time. "Forget my past," I begged him. "What can we do?" "They're right there." "I know a way out," he said, taking a step closer. "But we need to move. Now." Nikki's focus switched back, sharply surveying the surroundings while swathes of uncertainty gripped my gut. "Time was running out, where's the safe house?" Marissa prompted, her voice urgent. I could sense her doubt, her unfiltered concerns mingling with fierce loyalty, believing that our lives intertwined, even now as we sprinted further from uncertainty. "Just down the road," Nikki answered, glancing back toward the alley entrance where shadows stirred ominously. "It's risky, but if we can reach it before he could finish." A figure staggered into view at the alley's entrance, silhouetted against the flickering neon lights spilling like ink shadows into the damp streets. "Stop!" one of Rafe's men shouted, their faces hardening like granite. "You're not going anywhere." Panic shot through me, and every pulse of adrenaline surged sharply, tightening its grip around my heart. "Run!" I screamed, my voice cutting through the fray. The rush of survival ignited and propelled us forward as we took off, dashing toward the darkness that lay ahead, desperate to forge a passageway toward safety. In the frantic chaos of every heartbeat, the rain whipped around us, mingling with the breathless whispers of uncertainty. With each hurried step, I felt Lucas clutching my hand tighter, his small fingers entwined into my own, a lifeline tethered to innocence amidst the encroaching storm. Nikki led, unwavering and resolute, while Marissa stayed close. The world sped by in a blur of muted lights and shadows, propelled by a raw instinct to survive, leaving everything at risk behind us. I had once thought the city unyielding, but now it echoed with various promises, luring me into a renewed hope mixed with dread. "Turn left," Nikki shouted suddenly, breaking the rhythm of fear. Without hesitation, I did as I was told, skirting behind an old butcher shop, the scent of stale meat mingling with the dampness of the earth. My heart thundered in response to the awareness that we were being pursued, hunted by Rafe and the monsters who lingered in the shadows. We pressed further into the veil of night, rushing towards the glowing open flickering on the bar window nearby. Would this be a sanctuary, or another trap where our lives would splinter further? "Where's the door?" Marissa panted at Nikki, as we slowed for a moment at the entrance of the bar, our bodies heaving under the weight of exhausted adrenaline. "Back entrance," he replied, voice laced with fleeting urgency. "No one should spot us there." We rushed toward the back, Lucas nearly stumbling as he vaulted across the uneven pavement. Unlocking the door, Nikki swung us inside before taking a quick glance at the chaos unraveling faintly behind us. Inside the dimly lit bar, we slid against the wall, nearly collapsing under the weight of our panic. The atmosphere around us hummed with the low murmurs of laughter that drifted through hazy air sprinkled with the scent of cheap booze and wayward dreams. "Where's the safe house?" I whispered urgently, wanting to shield Lucas from the dangers now heralded in our relentless pursuit. "It's in the back. We can hide there, at least until we figure out what to do next," Nikki replied, determination etched onto his brow. "Wait." Marissa stepped closer, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for the unseen. "What if this is a setup? We can't risk Lucas' life." "It's not a trap," Nikki argued, frustration spilling into his voice. "You have to trust me." "But what if we lead him right to Rafe?" I interjected, already feeling the anxiety spike within me like an electric shock. "Please." Lucas cried out, his small voice trembling with fear. "I don't want to be taken." A profound silence fell upon us. A tangle of emotions unwound slowly, threatening collapse within the tumult of our consciousness. I felt the weight of their nerves seep through thin walls of hope, entrapping us. "Enough!" I exploded, emotion threatening to fracture my resolve. "Lucas, I'm not going to let anyone take you. Not now. Not ever." And just like that, my voice swelled with a fierce conviction that turned uncertainty into steel. "Let's get to the safe house," I finally pronounced, my heart steadying. "Well, figure it out there." With that, Nikki led us further into the bar, threading through the narrow hallway. The dim flickering lights threw shadows on the walls that danced as if mirroring the storm of uncertainties behind us. "Down here," he guided, and we moved quickly. Each breath we took felt like a countdown to the chaos waiting behind us. The moment we reached a small door in the far corner, the faint light of hope shimmered, beckoning us forward. "On three," Nikki urged, adrenaline threading through his voice. I nodded, heart racing. 1, 2, 3, we burst through the door, and just beyond lay a narrow staircase that descended sharply into darkness. The sounds of the bar faded behind, replaced by the pounding of our hearts, echoing off the stone walls as we raced down the steps. Once at the bottom, we emerged into a cramped basement, lined with remnants of old furniture and boxes filled with forgotten relics. The musty scent of dust and dampness filled the air, and for a moment, it felt like we'd been cloaked under a protective veil. "Are we safe?" Lucas whispered, fear evident in his voice as he pressed against me. "Not yet," I murmured, needing to shield him from my own insecurities. "Listen, Lucas," Nikki said, crouching to meet the boy's eyes. "You're stronger than you know. We can get through this together." "Really?" Lucas replied, a flicker of determination igniting in his small frame. "Really," Nikki smiled, and I could see the reflection of fragile hope digging into the heart of darkness that had chased us. "Okay." Lucas' acceptance rang true, sealing a silent promise among us, and in that moment, I felt an unexpected tension ease. As silence pressed upon us, the world above swelled with the storm of chaos, sirens ringing through the rain, heated words exchanged, and shadows lurking like ghosts in the growing dark. Would we make it? Would the rise and fall of our resolve see us through the churning tide of uncertainty? But before the questions could envelop me again, the thud of footsteps echoed through the floor above, sending a shiver down my spine. "They're coming," I breathed, panic surging anew as fear gripped tighter around my chest. We couldn't afford to lose our resolve. "Take cover," Nikki hissed, urging Lucas and Marissa to snuggle behind an old couch while I braced against the wall, calculated breathing grounding me. As the footsteps grew louder, a discordant march that mirrored the vile intentions of fate, the stakes mounted. The weight of the quiet beckoned. Time was slipping. With every beat, I drew closer to embracing the storm, preparing to confront whatever would come crashing through that door. All I wanted was to protect those who mattered most to me. Time felt elastic, the pressure boiling into a singular moment, eventually splitting my heart open like a locked vault. With every thud, echoing like a war drum, I could hear the ghost of my past entwined with the power of love mingling with danger. What would we become when the storm finally broke, and the world beyond offered no reprieve? Would I finally learn that love and courage intertwined could hold just enough strength to light the way? Just as the door creaked open with an ominous tremor, replacing hope with dread, I buckled down deeper, my resolve crystallizing. Storm was here, but if I had the power to change our fate, I would face it head-on and fight with everything I had left. Then came the moment when everything shifted. The room flooded with shadows, our bodies pressed against one another, hearts racing. In the face of vulnerability, love surged forth, lighting a beacon of hope. I took a deep breath, a silent promise woven through the weight of fear. It was time to demonstrate what lay beyond despair, what had always been smoldering just beneath the surface, waiting for a chance to blaze. As visions of the future danced beyond the threshold of uncertainty, I steeled myself against the unseen, prepared to safeguard those standing alongside me. This was our moment, love, fierce and unyielding, igniting within me, ready to unravel the chaos by fighting for our truth, our lives.